what you want about Chris Christie, at least he doesn't retreat when asked if he'd run against Trump in 2024.
Would you run if Trump runs?
Sure.
Oh, so you'll run against Donald Trump?
Sure.
Where's the camera? Put this camera on Chris Christie's face. You'll run against Donald Trump?
Yes.
Okay.
It seems like every other potential GOP candidate folds like a cheap lawn chair when they get asked that question. They apparently think their loyalty will benefit them if Trump decides not to run. That's bananas. They should know by now that Trump's only loyal to himself. Christie at least is applying experience to the problem. He's probably known that backing the Donald was a bad idea since his body language stole the show at that rambling 2016 press conference. Despite supporting Trump during most of administration, Christie did speak up on January 6th, and he hasn't stopped. But much of the rest of the GOP is suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. They think their captor is their savior. He's not. By any objective measure, Donald Trump is a drag on the Republican Party. He's not strong. He's self-evidently weak, a two-time popular vote loser, in addition to being a delusional seditionist. But because Republicans are afraid of his base, they either can't see it or won't admit it. Take a look at that much ballyhooed two-point win in Virginia by Glenn Youngkin. He refused to campaign with Trump, didn't want to be seen with the guy, and he outperformed Donald Trump in every single county in Virginia. He won over suburban and swing voters who viewed Trump as toxic. Yes, Trump is deliriously popular with the base, but there is already evidence of a clear lane for a GOP candidate not named Donald Trump. Take a closer look at this September poll from CNN. When asked whether Republicans have a better chance of winning in 2024 with Trump or someone else, 49% said someone else. That's basically half the GOP, just waiting for a compelling alternative. A brand new Des Moines Register poll makes the same point in starker terms. 61% of Iowa Republicans say they're more aligned with the GOP compared to the 26% who say their primary loyalty is to Trump. There's a clear opening here, people. And Trump's weakness as a general election candidate is already evident. Remember, he's massively unpopular with the American people as a whole. He left office with a 34% approval rating. He's the only president in the history of Gallup to never hit 50%. And all that leaves a mark. Get this. In October, the Grinnell College poll found that President Biden had an abysmal 37% approval rating. Now, that's an outlier, but you'd imagine that a credible GOP candidate would easily beat Biden in a hypothetical matchup, right? But that poll found Biden and Trump tied at 40%, with 14% saying they'd vote for someone else. That's the political equivalent of losing money while owning the casino. Fear is what's keeping Republican officials from seeing this clearly. And that cowardice should be almost as disqualifying for a potential commander-in-chief as trying to overturn an election based on a lie. Now, there are honorable exceptions, like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and Anthony Gonzalez, who've spoken out clearly in consistency about the cult of personality that's taken over the GOP and its dangerous implications for our democracy. But they've gotten excommunicated for their honesty. Liz Cheney, remember that extremely conservative daughter of the former VP, has even been officially kicked out of her home state GOP. But what if she and other red state never-Trumpers ran as independents in the general election? There's every reason to think their name ID and principled independence would be rewarded outside those Republican primaries. After all, that's what Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski did when she lost a primary to a Tea Party hardliner in 2010, and she won re-election as a write-in candidate. That's one way to try to break the Stockholm Syndrome that's captured the GOP. Because we need more principled independence in our politics, just as our country needs two sane parties to survive. And it is self-evidently insane to treat a failed ex-president who tried to overturn an election as the inevitable next nominee. Nothing's inevitable. And if conservative means anything, it means trying to conserve our basic system of government. So we need candidates with the courage to stand up and tell the truth. Trump is weak. America is strong. And that's your reality check.
Look, what's telling is if and when another nationally prominent Republican, in addition to Chris Christie, stands up and says a similar thing, if ever. I think that really bears watching.
There's a lane there. Stand up. Let's have a real race.
John Allen, thank you very much.